Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
This August 11th Resource Conservation Commission meeting to order. Appointment of a timekeeper. I don't know who hasn't done it for a while.
I think I actually had Jim. He was slated for last month.
Okay. All right, so. Jim, are you all right being the timekeeper?
I was the timekeeper last time.
Yes.
Okay.
At the last meeting.
All right.
So if someone else could do it, that would be great.
Yeah, this is Jim. That's fine. I can do it.
Very good.
Jim and Kim just sound too much alike.
It's going to be tricky, but I think we'll make it work. Public appearances on non-agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from the July 14th RCC meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Okay. Any seconds? 9 seconds. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the July 14th meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we will move into new business on today's agenda. So agenda item 4A, discuss recommendations for the 2026 solid waste collection rates. So Ben is going to lead that discussion.
Yes, I'll share my screen here. All right, perfect. So up on this document you can see now here, we just have a comparison of the solid waste contract costs from last year, this year, 2025, and then the estimated solid waste contract costs for 2026. So this is based on the unit cost. So this is basically what, this is what was in Pelletieri's proposal for the 5-year contract term. It outlined what the unit cost would be for each year of the contract. And this number is basically, you see refuse, 52 total, 52 pickups, $8.50. That is the price, $8.50 per month to provide that pickup service per unit. Yep. So you can see kind of between the 2025 and 2026 unit costs, there was an increase, which we knew based on their proposal. So it's about 3.6% increase for each one of these items per year. And the other component that makes up these estimates is just the total number of units. So again, we're anticipating over the course of 2026 to add roughly 150 units. Again, this number, it doesn't have to be an exact estimate because it goes on the tax bill. So whoever does receive the service will get charged on their tax bill for it. But based on the growth that we've seen previously, we ended up with about 6,750 units by the end of 2026.
And this is single-family homes, duplexes, and anything else?
Any kind of 3-unit or 4-unit apartments.
Okay.
Yep. Any larger apartments or structures or a condo association or something, if it's more than 4 units, then they would have to handle their refuse and recycling privately.
And we're currently at 6,600?
That's we're should be there by the end of the year.
Okay. All right.
So in total, when you look at the added houses and the increase in cost, the total contractor cost is estimated to be just a little over $1.5 million. That's about 5.85% more than this year. So that's fairly normal in kind of the past years. You can see it was 3.8 previously. We are actually able to hold our rate constant from 24 to 25. So were there any questions on this sheet at all?
So we're talking strictly for the solid waste pickup. Anything that they do at the drop-off site is a separate contract?
So the drop-off site work is kind of baked into this.
It is,
yeah.
okay. So these prices then would include plastic film in the block polystyrene bin?
Yep, correct.
And remind me again, so in addition to the plastic film, was there more that they were going to handle in there?
So it's going to be, block polystyrene, plastic film, but then also things like straws, packing peanuts. Mostly the plastic film is the big one. So we are hoping that we'll get a new dumpster early September that will be down at the recycling drop-off. We'll get some new signs made up, but yeah, hopefully soon we'll be able to also accept some of those other products that currently don't really have a home right now.
Okay.
And Kim's ears are going to burn when I tell her that some of the stuff I've been getting lately includes additional packaging materials that are, I think it's low density polyethylene. It's not block polystyrene, but it's used in place of that, and it's kind of a spongy feeling thing. And I never know whether that is recyclable or not. Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I don't think that you can put that into your blue recycling cart.
But it also can't be put into the block. It's not block polystyrene.
Not right now, but that may be. I'll have to confirm
Okay.
that. Yeah, that may be an item they can take.
I feel like that's becoming more prevalent, and maybe that's just vibes, but I don't know if anybody else has noticed.
I have noticed it more in the packaging. I don't know, why. I'm sure there's some reason why people are maybe switching to using that in their packaging.
I imagine
it's cheaper. It would be at the top of the list. Yeah. And so then the question will be what can we do with it on the back end? Because oftentimes those two aren't interrelated. Some, with certain situations they are, but sometimes they're not. And so, and it kind of depends on the municipality too. Something that may be approved in ours may not be approved in a neighboring municipality potentially. So so we're going to kick this off in early September, right?
That is the plan.
So are there? I guess my biggest concern out of the gates is I love that the packing peanuts are getting collected, but also have seen that site out there and have some concerns about how the packing peanuts are collected and not getting blown around
Sure.
out of the gate. So I think we'll have to just monitor that closely out of the gates and see how that's going. But I'm hopeful that can work.
Yeah, ideally. I think one of the things that drove this was people were putting that stuff in there anyways. So rather than try to be more strict on enforcing it, well, what about just accepting it and finding a place that can actually.
It gives an opportunity for us to do outreach on it too, I guess, if it is a little bit of a issue out of the gates. So we can work through that, but it makes sense that people probably have been putting them in there. That doesn't surprise me too much. Okay.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to some of these more detailed budget sheets here and just kind of go over the highlights. If anyone does have questions on specific items, feel free to jump in. It's largely pretty similar. No big changes really to the operating budget aside from there is a request in for additional money to be able to continue the food participation in the food stop collection program through Dane County Waste and Renewables. That will be an agenda item. There'll be a resolution to approve that contract. The next meeting, at the September meeting. I would hope that if that is approved, then the budget request for those additional dollars would also move forward. Other changes, a little bit more money was, I think it was $1,000 more we had earmarked for the oil and oil filter recycling at the drop-off site, just based on use. There wasn't really too many other big changes. As you can see here, I think we added a little bit more money in for the shred events that we do each year. Resource Solutions fee has just gone up a little bit. Another small increase for some software we use, I think just $250. And then of course some of the salaries, wages, a slight change there. But for the most part, no real big changes to the operating budget. So we can get down here to the end and talk about fund balance. So the kind of ideal fund balance percentage, I think it's 15 to 25, with I think 25 kind of preferred to have. So you can see we're projecting by the end of this year, we're looking to be closer to 31.4%. So definitely a very healthy fund balance. The biggest driver for that is, I can show you right up at the top here, is the interest on temporary investments. So that's a number that's never really counted on as being a larger number. So it's kind of been budgeted at $10,000 the last several years, but you can see in 2024 and 2023, it was far more than that. Whereas in these previous years, lesser, in some cases much less than the $10,000. So the returns there have kind of been driving up the fund balance a little bit higher than what we have been planning for in the past. So with that, we'll take a look at our analysis here. And again, the budgeted number for 2026 was 10,000 for the temporary investments, just without being able to predict that necessarily. But because there's a healthy fund balance, despite the fact that we know Pelletieri's costs go up about 3.5% each year, the number that we're kind of looking at is a $4 increase, so that's a 1.7% increase, so from 232 to 236. That would involve a fund applying, $11,000 from the fund balance. So with, if that actually comes to fruition by the end of next year, we would be looking at an unassigned fund balance of 29.1%. So kind of just slowly and controlled, bringing it down to, closer to that 25. And, we know that this increase doesn't account for the additional Pelletieri cost, but the fund balance is, applying the $11,000 isn't going to be an issue. We'll still have a very healthy fund balance, and we can see, again, next year if there's an opportunity to, again, go with a smaller increase, less than what Pelletieri's increase is, again, to try to get that fund balance down maybe to closer to that 25%. Try to pass those savings on, but yeah. So that's
you don't want to use too much of your fund balance, because at some point you're not going to be able to apply any more fund balance, and then there will be a bigger jump and people will wonder what's going on.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, you could say, sure, you could raise it, $0. Again, keep it the same. You'd be looking at, $38,000 fund balance. So you'd be down to 27.6. But at some point, or if you're going over budget for some reason on something, say you've got some storms and you need additional money for extra brush pickup or something, just try not to get into a situation where there's a more substantial increase in one year. But I think there's several rates that would make sense, and 236 is probably somewhere kind of in the middle of them. So I'll just leave it at that. If there's any comments or thoughts, or maybe some different perspectives or a different rate that we would like to discuss, I'm open to hearing it.
I had one question. When does the next 5-year contract come up? Is that
so that will be 2029.
okay? So yeah, it seems like it was pretty recently that we did that.
Yep, that was just last year.
And so we weathered that storm pretty well. So that was a new contract here in 2024.
2025 was the first year of the new contract. So yeah,
we're really in the first year of the contract, so we don't have that for a while. But even with that transition, we held the rate pretty well. Because I remember I think the previous transition back in 2019, 2020, and it also kind of corresponded to China not taking as much of our recyclables. There was a substantial jump where we made a jump from just for past history, from 165 to 205, in 1 year. And so it's nice to see that this has stabilized quite a bit, and that includes going through a transition to a new contract, where there could have been larger increase. And it looks like they've baked that into each year of the contract, that there's an incremental increase to kind of account for inflation, so there isn't as big a jump with the rates in between contracts. So and I think obviously we're on the high end of the healthy balance, but I think for all the reasons you indicated, it makes sense to potentially have it go up a little bit. And I anticipate that there's going to be some more organic things potentially happening in the near future, and maybe with if there are other things. I mean, I think we're going to look at the Dane County thing now, but there'll probably be other spin-offs to that. So continuing to have a healthy fund balance, and maybe if we have to look at something else to look at on the organic side of things as a community, or have another opportunity that comes up where we can do something really innovative and forward, that we do have a balance to do that, because we have been able to have that stay at a healthy level.
Well, I do like the strategy. I mean, the rate's going up, but not nearly as fast as inflation. Nobody can. Everybody should look at this and be satisfied that they're not getting ripped off. So, do we have an actual written policy that says 15 to 25%, and are there any repercussions that are built into that for being too low or being too high? We don't have anything that says we have to spend it down to 25 every year, right?
Yeah, not that I'm aware of. I would have to talk to Misty. I think this is kind of the recommendation of the city's financial advisor.
It seems like every financial policy, every fund that I come across, they always say 15 to 25. So it seems like you say citywide policy.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, Moody's would rather see 30% than 25. I've heard.
What's Moody's?
The rating agency.
Okay.
Yeah. But I've also not heard of any
possibly. I think.
Well, you're given a recommendation of what to use for that, right? I mean, I know that I believe in 2012 when we did the organics collection pilot, that was closer to a $50,000 cost, that was tapped out of the fund balance.
Okay.
So, I think that's a possibility just for future reference, but, we've gotten to this solution, that's, City of Madison is different than us, and, we've talked through it as a community, and this is the decision that we've come through for now. We can evaluate next year how things are going, and if we feel like there is, value in that, and depends on the quantity and interest and kind of what some of the initial sentiment is, if it makes sense, maybe we can always have that in our back pocket to come back to as an option. I don't know exactly how we got to start, we're starting somewhere.
Yeah.
No, and we'll see how that goes.
I'm just thinking that if we had a presence at the farmers market, it could also play up the drop-off site. And and I guess as long as we're talking about it, have you thought more about where we might have that, or has that been?
I think we have an agenda item.
Yeah,
is it okay?
We'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Jim has his hand raised. Jim, you have a comment?
Yeah. First, 2-minute warning, and then my question is there any impact on the price of diesel in this contract? Does Pelletier just take all risk and projection of the price of diesel, or how does that fit in here, if at all?
Yes, so in the contract, there is, I guess we'll call it an appendix to the contract, that basically has a list of a bunch of prices, diesel prices, and then what a surcharge associated with that price. So if diesel is at $5 a gallon, they'll be able to add a fuel surcharge. So that was something, I think maybe the first year I was here, we didn't have any dollars budgeted for the fuel surcharge. And at that time there was kind of an increase in the diesel prices. So that was kind of an unexpected cost, but since then we have budgeted, I believe, $30,000 a year, just in case there's any spikes in diesel prices.
All right. Thank you. And we are at time if we want to wrap up this topic.
All right, sounds good. So Ben, what do you need from us? Do you want us to have a motion to recommend, or
it'll come back to council, so we've got to wait until the actual budget gets approved before I can do the resolution. But I believe that one is an October resolution, so
it'll circle back around. We'll have a resolution. We'll have a quick discussion again, and this is just kind of like, where are we setting it at to get it into the resolution mode?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Anybody have anything else on that item? If no, we'll move on to item number 4B, Fall 2025 Recycling Day Event Planning. Ben.
All right, so this is kind of just a reminder that we do have the shred event and electronics recycling event September 13th, Saturday, from 8 o'clock to 11 a.m. No changes really as far as vendors. Pelletary will be providing the paper shredding, and Resource Solutions will be providing the electronics recycling. It will be again at the Civic Campus here at City Hall. Pretty much the same layout, so same traffic patterns. No real changes. I believe that Resource Solutions will be sending out their flyers to select residents. We've got a few flyers up around City Hall, and we'll get some more social media posts about this. But just was wondering if anyone was planning on volunteering. Any takers?
Ben, I'll be available.
Excellent, thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
I know there isn't a Badger football home game that weekend because they're playing at Alabama, and I know that I won't be here that weekend.
Okay.
So read into that.
Yeah, I should be available to volunteer if needed.
Okay, great. Well, I'll send out maybe a spreadsheet just if you want to put your name in or something. And there's no obligation to be there the whole time.
What if I say I'm going to be there, but then I just don't show up?
Well, the no call, no show is, we don't love that, but things come up. If it happens, it happens. We won't hold it against you.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I would say, you typically, how do we get, I know there's been council and the mayor has helped out with volunteering at this event before. Can we get the word out to those people that might want to volunteer as well? I would include Diane Streck on the list. She may or may not be able to participate. I think she still is interested in participating in those types of events.
Yep, so I'll send out an email to past volunteers and then current elders as well.
I'll mention it at tomorrow night's council meeting as well.
Is there any logistical things that we need to talk through regarding that event? Improvements from the last event? I mean,
if anyone has any thoughts, last event was it was a little bit different because normally we have the backup occurring from a long line of electronics. It was switched, so it was a little bit of a backup due to the just sheer number of people looking to get their paper shredded. But it worked out.
And so we're having the same. It's not only the same vendors, but it's the same setup. So one truck with however many carts they had.
We will try to get a few more carts. I think that'll.
Then you have at least a little bit of backlog that can be worked through when you do have your natural slow periods. But I think part of the problem last time was that there weren't enough carts, so we couldn't. When we did have a slog of people come through at once, we were limited by the not having enough carts to put the paper in. So I think that might be a key addition. But
additional carts should help as long as the line isn't long for a long period of time.
And my general feeling is that like people generally are a little more cooped up in the winter and tend to go through paperwork more often. So the spring event would have more paper generally at it than the fall event, but I don't know if the data backs that up. That's just my general feeling on.
Yeah, I'd have to look back and see. That's an interesting hypothesis.
Well, I know talking to a few people, they said there was so much paper because people were just finishing up with taxes. So they had a lot of documents, to shred for that. But then I was wondering, how everybody arrived like at 7:30 or, like it was like there was a huge line. I'm wondering if we need to just say anything when we send out information about the event. Like we will not be collecting or starting until 8, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder, and of course, if you get there at 7:30, you're going to end up having to wait longer than you would if you just show up at 8. Yeah, it can make it a little bit tricky to set everything up, and yeah, we'll try to
Figure something out. Yeah.
promote that aspect of it.
Have we ever encouraged people to do like a buddy system where like, you could cut the number of cars in half if every other car volunteers to take the junk from the guy behind them?
Sure, you should go with your neighbor or something, carpooling. Yeah.
I think it's not a bad idea to mention that as an idea, encourage that. I don't know if we can ever truly just make that happen, but like, I think the idea is good to just encourage it and think about it, because I know that I have neighbors that come to the event, so if I just took a little bit of time and said, hey, I'm going to the electronic recycling event, do you want me to take something there for you? It could, save, a little bit on, some of our
even as
emissions.
cars are lined up, if the volunteers say, hey, do you want to take the
it
stuff
gets a little murky with, like the cost of things. And
Sure.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, if there's free stuff.
Yeah.
That speaking of the cost of things, that is one other thing I did want to mention. So the costs are the same as they have been each of the last several years, I think now, or at least a few years, for the items that do have a fee associated with them. So that's your TVs, dehumidifiers, fridges, microwaves. Pretty much just the appliances with refrigerant and your televisions. Stuff like cell phones, laptops, power cords, small random electronics, those are all going to be free. All right, I think that's all I had. Do we have any other questions about the recycling event?
So I just want everybody to be aware, Goodwill, you can do free electronic recycling year-round at most of the Goodwill locations, including the one in Fitchburg, and they have a program that they're running. They're calling it the E-Cycling Saturday Drive, and so they're featuring this electronics recycling at different locations on every Saturday throughout the season. And August 16th, which is coming up here pretty soon this weekend, is the Fitchburg store and the North Side store in Madison. So I guess people have the opportunity to do this 2 months in a row.
Yeah, very good.
And I don't know if we want to take this into account. I don't know if this is something they do every year, or if I just happen to, or is this something special, or did I just happen to stumble across it this year?
It's new to me.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it. My son goes to Madison West, and they had electronics recycling last fall. I remember going to that. And so, you know, I know there are different events around, and we're just one of those events. You know, we seem to get a lot of people at our event, so I think it's branded well, and it's, you know, a nice opportunity still. But
I guess we should maybe put a sticky note on the wall or something when we're planning this. You know, if they ever have a date at the Fitchburg store that matches our, we should, you know.
Try not to match exactly, yeah.
I mean, they've got dates on here starting at the end of June, so, you know, if they do this same thing next year, we should be able to know ahead of time, far enough in advance. I can send this link to everybody.
Who is it again?
Goodwill.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Anybody else have anything else on the Fall Recycling Day event planning? All right, moving on to item 4C, Green Thursdays, sustainability documentaries at the library. So I think we've talked about this before. I think we have it reserved. Kim, is it started in October or November?
November. I can give a quick little update on it. So I've been working with Rebecca Swanson at the library, and we have our kickoff reserved for November 6th. And the library closes at 8, so I had suggested like a 6 to 7:30, but we can talk more about, you know, what makes the most sense for the time and depending on the movie time frame as well. And then our next one would be January 1st, which obviously the library will be closed. So we're working on a new date for January. But then it would be every other month, the first Thursday.
Okay.
So just to give a quick update, the library has a new system now that where we have to kind of go through a link that is provided to the library for requesting movies or films. And if they don't happen to have it at that link, then you have to buy a single-use license for that film. So I went through and kind of looked at a number of, you know, environmental, climate, sustainable movies that we might think about showing. And most of them have a single-use license fee. So what Rebecca's going to do is she's going to do a little research for us and come back and let us know what the cost would be. And she said each movie is kind of dependent, so it's not like every one is going to be $100 for a licensing fee. So then I think we would have to make a decision on, you know, do we have the funds to help pay for this? And I asked her, what about splitting that cost with the library? And she said she would have to look into that, and it would be kind of dependent on the cost. But she said, I don't know that we could commit to doing this, you know, splitting it every single time.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'm hoping I'll hear back from her regarding some of these films, and, you know, she'll tell me what the cost would be, and then we can kind of make a decision. But I guess that was one thing I was going to ask Ben is, since this is kind of a new situation, would we have money in the budget to help pay for, you know, a one-time licensing, you know, for the movie? But this is going to happen every time, you know, we go to show a film, unless we can find one that doesn't have cost to it.
And certainly there is money specifically earmarked for these kind of events, you know, for speakers and food and anything like this. You know, I have no idea what those licensing fees are. Hopefully it's not $100 per movie, because then we will run out pretty quick.
The problem is that's on the lower end. It's anywhere from $100 to $500. Yeah.
It's shocking.
So we might have to get creative and just see what they have. I mean, they don't have a whole lot available, like from an environmental perspective, that aren't costing a one-time licensing fee.
It's a single time, and it's not even, they can't even keep it in their circulation. They show it once to 10 people and.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically having us get the licensing fee. So like they basically have a new system where they have a link to movies, and depending on what that movie is, it either is accessible through them for no fee, or it just has a one-time licensing fee.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
anything we
there
show
was not a
must go
whole big
through.
selection.
So I can't come in with a DVD and put it on my laptop and hook it up to the TV. That's that out of the question. Sounds like it, being a kind of a
No.
public viewing. Don't want to get in trouble with.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, we never had this. This is a whole new thing. We never had this issue in the past when we used to do this. So, and I was talking to my niece who works for a library, and she said this is kind of the new way of doing things.
And so we have to go through this process. Like if Amazon or Hulu or Netflix had this same sort of an arrangement where you could do a single viewing for a group of people, that would be unacceptable?
Yeah, I mean, unless it's in this library, through the library.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So like, if the film, is like, so far none of the films have been like Netflix or Prime or anything like that. They've been like HBO, that sort of thing. So I'm assuming that's just kind of the contract that they have. I can look into it a little bit more and see if there's, once she comes back with the pricing, obviously it's not something that we budgeted for because we just have never had to deal with that in the past. So we might have to get creative and, see if there's any other options out there.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to show the movie at City Hall. Who knows?
All right. Well, I mean, it's good to know all that on the front end, where that stands before we get too close to it. So we are a few months out from November, believe it or not.
Yep.
And so, it's good to start talking about it and understanding what the situation is now compared to what it used to be. So I think in the past, we actually partnered with Monona, I want to say Monona Library. I don't know if there's any partnerships with other libraries that might be interested in doing, because I feel like the Monona Sustainability Committee kind of started something like this, and Monona was doing a certain night, and then these films are getting circulated around to Fitchburg, and we were doing it on Green Thursdays. That was kind of our branding that we did to have these, films happen. But yeah, it sounds a little different now. And so we'll just kind of, pivot and adjust as we need to with it. We could look at, a sustainability speaker occasionally and, a film occasionally, depending on what the costs come back at. But like, I think generally we put funds in for like educational outreach, in our budgets that we hardly ever tap into realistically. And so I think we already have an amount in there, and then like if this is popular and we have a better feeling for the fees, then we can budget that for future years. But I don't know, when do we have to finalize operating for like the 2026 budget? Because we're only just showing one this year, so I'm not too worried about the budget.
Already. So I could talk to Misty and see if there's if it's okay if I make a last minute request. I don't know, Bill. It's got to be coming up on the agendas pretty soon for you.
Yeah, it is. I think you got some amount of time, probably a couple of weeks or a month.
Yeah. I'll see what we can do. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Well, and the other option would be, Chris, I like your idea of, kind of spreading it out and showing maybe, and we wouldn't have to do it every other month either. We could spread it out and say, every, quarter or something.
Yep.
And then kind of do a speaker, and then a movie, and then a speaker, then a movie or something.
Yeah, so that, I mean, we only have to get through 2 instead of 6 movies at whatever those fees end up being. So, like,
what about the speaker fees? Is that better or worse?
I feel like a lot of speakers would just
Pro bono?
move. I think so. I think a number of them would at least, or
yeah, we have had.
Or you could keep reaching out until you find some that are willing to do it for.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are looking for outreach opportunities. It's, so it seems to work out where we've had to pay that before, but it's not too often on speakers that we've had that people have requested that.
Maybe somebody on the committee has like ties to the UW or something and could work out some sort of an arrangement.
He's a very popular speaker. When he did do his talk on, he talked about all kinds of renewables. So he talked about solar, wind, battery storage. I thought, he could have gone for probably 2 hours. People were asking a lot of questions.
That's a long time ago. I doubled my rate from then. I didn't charge anything the first time.
Yeah. So yeah, I think now that we know this is in play, if there's a little bit of an adjustment that we can make for next year, just to give us a little bit more flexibility, knowing that we haven't used a lot of our educational outreach in the past, like if it's 300 and moving it up to 500 or 600, just to give us a little more flexibility. But I think we'll still kind of make a decision as a commission as to like, are these making sense? If we're spending, let's say, $250 on a film and we have 5 people come and watch it, then I think we can make some decisions on those types of things pretty quickly and kind of pivot and adjust as we need to. But I do like the idea of and we all did like the idea of doing that. That's why we've looked into it and gotten it to this point of setting our first date. And I think it is a good opportunity for people to come and talk about these things as they get on their mind and talk with like-minded or different-minded people and talk through some of these challenges that we face with sustainability. All right, how are we doing on time here? Doing okay? Anything else on this one?
Nope, I'll just report back once I get some information on costs and everything.
Okay, yeah, so I think we'll probably keep this on the agenda probably as a quick update item next time in the old business and just kind of keep engaged in understanding where we're heading, because by next month we'll only be a couple months away, so then we'll be into kind of full-fledged planning almost, and when we get to September, October. Sounds good. Moving into agenda item 5A, update on school year startup for cafeteria recycling at schools. So, so that's me. I don't know when I shared my last update on the schools. I think people knew that I was working on trying to get a policy drafted with the Madison School District on their recycling policy. And then also another school that's, Fitchburg children go to is Verona. Sustain Dane has been actively working in their elementary schools to try to get cart recycling going, or at least going in and auditing and providing some recommendations to recycle better if they were recycling but maybe having a lot of contamination issues. So I know that that was ongoing. So where I passed it in early June is I passed it to the new sustainability coordinator for the Madison School District, Brianna Kreckler, and her plan was to finalize the policy and then the initial plan at the end of last school year was to roll it out at the start of this year's school year. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I'm just not sure where the policy is at. It seems like the policy is going to take some time to work through the board approval and whatnot. Like, you know, just because you have a policy doesn't mean that the policy is implemented right away. And so I feel like there is going to be some time where that's going to take to kind of hash that out, kind of fine tune the language, and then actually be able to roll it out as a policy that, you know, is expected to be implemented by the custodial staff and you know, each individual school. But that is what we continue to work towards. So there was some grant funding that was covering our last portion of that policy write-up, which was a culmination of a lot of different rounds of funding that the current council has provided to this program for the Madison schools, but also the Madison area schools. And so there has been, you know, great progress made on all of those fronts. But in order to get the Madison School District fully involved and fully recycling across their schools, it felt like we needed to get a policy in place to make that happen, with some guidance on the things that we've learned from the schools that have implemented it. There's just too many schools in the district to not have a policy and, you know, just kind of hope that everybody does the right thing and gets a cart recycling thing, you know, going. You know, it takes, you know, it's going to take the policy, I think. And so that's kind of where we're at. So I had some support from the grant funding with my full-time job to support that effort. Now I'm back to full volunteer mode in terms of supporting the sustainability person. Sustain Dane is also just kind of still engaged a little bit, but it's more so been handed over to the Madison School District to try to drive it forward. But that would be a nice culmination to a little project that started with our Resource Conservation Commission in 2018 at the Aldo Leopold Elementary School. To get all the way to that point has been the ultimate goal. And there is a deadline on it. And since it started when our sons were in first grade, Kim, the deadline that I've tentatively said is when my son graduates from high school, we better have this in place. And so that's coming up pretty soon.
Yes, that would be nice.
That's less than 2 years away. So
yes,
we've got, you know, it feels like we're going to go into the senior year on that to get it to the finish line. But if anybody has any questions or ideas on that front, feel free to share them quickly. All right, moving on to item 5B, the Fitchburg food scrap collection update. Ben, do you have any updates on where we stand with that?
Yeah, so this will be a resolution that we'll see next month come through. It will go to council, I believe it's their September 9th meeting, hopefully for approval. I did speak with Delaney at Dane County Waste and Renewables just to kind of discuss, you know, the city's ability to change food scrap collection locations if we wanted to try out a few different spots. That was all good. So I think that would be kind of an interesting thing. Try out a couple different 2-3 locations, see if there's any real difference. I think what we discussed, well, my initial thought was at the recycling drop-off site, but you know, it wasn't really close to, you know, an area with a lot of, yeah, any place, really. So the next thought that I had was kind of off of Traceway, near the hub, or across the street from the hub. The city does have a parcel of land. You know, you can park on the street. There might not be a great way for the carts to get picked up at that location, because it's just all grass.
How many locations do we have that we can, is it just in one spot at a time?
The 4 carts all in one spot.
Yeah, 4 carts at
In
one
one
spot, yeah.
But we can move that spot of 4 carts to
Some
different
different
locations.
areas to try out, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so I don't know that current city-owned parcel across the street from the hub would work necessarily unless we made a small improvement to it, just to let vehicles get on it, to do the pickup. But that is one of the few city-owned parcels that isn't really used, for anything, near the, more multifamily area. So
And these carts are, they don't stink, right? As long as the cover is closed,
well,
the neighbors shouldn't complain. I don't want.
Well, the winter months probably not.
Yeah.
It'll be different than the summer months.
yeah, I'm sure.
I don't want
there'll be-
anybody to think we're putting it there as punishment, or because we don't care about them. I feel like this needs to go near a population center, but on the other hand, are they going to think that we're insulting them by putting this garbage next to them? So, I guess we can ask maybe and see how other places have done
Yeah,
it.
that's what I was thinking. Did Delaney give you any insights as to where they've been going in other?
A lot of parks. So parks has kind of been a popular one.
And those have been doing okay? I mean, like,
So it sounds like it, so I just got
I
an
don't know what
update
okay is. I mean, I don't know what,
today.
I don't know
I
what to
mean,
measure against.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like, from any perspective, it's been doing good. That they haven't had any issues with the carts kind of like disappearing or people throwing trash in them or breaking the locks or just general contamination. So it's been pretty successful. And one thing I'll mention is, the first month I think they estimated a collection of 2.6 tons in June. So in July they estimated 5.3 tons. So they have been growing pretty quickly as far as number of people registered and actual amount collected.
5.3 tons.
Yeah, but again, in general, parks have been kind of a popular spot for these, usually in a parking lot at the park. There's one in I think it's the one in Middleton, is at the Badger Prairie Needs Network. So they've got a
Well, I think
office over
that's
there.
actually out of Verona.
Oh, is that the Verona one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Badger Prairie, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that's out pretty close to their closed landfill out there, so makes sense. I mean, I think McKee Park, or sorry, what park am I thinking of over here?
Over where?
Lacey.
McGaw.
McGaw Park, sorry, not McKee. Maybe McKee. I mean,
McKee is pretty popular. I don't know if
Yeah.
how far people want to drive with their food scraps.
there are a lot of, I would say McGaw Park, the argument for that would be you have a ton of multifamily
You got
apartments everywhere and condos in that area. And so you have a pretty dense population over that.
Yeah, McGaw would be an interesting one to try. Certainly it'd be an easy one from pickup logistics, to put the carts out anywhere out there.
or even Swan Creek, like the corner of Lacey and Sain. You got what is it called, North Point or whatever, the apartments along Aurora and
There's a
and
ton
then
out there, yeah.
Harton Fields going in. The Limerick is there. There's condos on the northwest corner.
There's just not a good place on that corner of Lacey and Sain. Or are you talking Lacey and Sain or Lacey and Cheryl?
Lacey and Sain, yeah.
Lacey and Cheryl, okay. All right.
Somewhere in that general area, I think
Right.
would be.
I just don't know where the good public drop-off place would be
Yeah.
to do that pickup. So McGough Park is not very far from there.
Yeah, that's another good option.
Eagle Jamestown Park.
That could be a good one. Yeah, there's it's a little bit more single family over there, but there's some other apartment buildings,
yeah,
I guess outside of Fitchburg, maybe more in the Madison side. But yeah, I feel like that maybe section of the city.
Somewhere just, yeah, we got
Yeah.
Newfoundland Apartments there,
Yeah.
right? That's one of the bigger developments in the city. That might be a good, somewhere around there if we can, might be a good place as well.
Mhm. Yeah, West Hills Park could potentially be a decent location out there. Got a little bit. You might have to do a little something just to. I suppose we'd probably just let the truck go up on the path and kind of have the.
Yeah, I guess I'd continue, like, as they're collecting more and more data each month, continue to talk to Dane County and just kind of get which ones are doing the best, so far, because it's a little bit of a, an experiment to see which ones, and then we can kind of look at the characteristics for the ones that are doing the best and see if we can find a way to match those.
Do you want to maybe send an email to council and mayor and have all of the alders suggest places within their district?
Yeah, that I think would be. They probably have some good ideas. Maybe I should wait to make sure they approve it first. I don't wanna.
Yeah.
But
I think that would be a next step, is maybe figuring that out, but I think we have some good initial ideas on it.
Okay. Very good. And I think, if we do find it to be pretty successful, there's, of course, you can get more carts and keep adding, have 4 carts at one location, 4 carts at another location, so.
Is there a volume discount then? Like,
Maybe.
I mean, we got 52 weeks with 4 carts at one location is like $7K or something. So maybe if we had 2 locations, it wouldn't be 14, it might be 12.
Possibly. I would have to find that out.
Will Dane County give us feedback on what they're seeing in terms of the food waste, or what contaminants are in there? Or
yeah, so
I think we can kind of predict what some of the things will be based on what we've learned about from Sustain Dane already, and their stickers on the fruit seems like one that's one of the challenges. Rubber bands, I imagine, on certain vegetables.
So they've been holding monthly check-ins, Sustain Dane, with a representative from the partner communities to kind of talk through, not just the numbers as far as total collected and people registered, but any pain points and things that people are noticing, questions that are coming up, all sorts of stuff. I mean, getting different locks that are more friendly. Maybe if you have arthritis or something, these locks I think are a little challenging. So they're learning all sorts of stuff right now.
Are the numbers big enough for old eyes to deal with on the lock?
Oh yeah, I mean, again, you learn a lot of different issues, as you kind of roll it out. So yeah,
Is Sustain Dane tied into what Dane County's doing?
Not from what I understand.
Okay. So I was just wondering if there was a partnership there where, they're collecting the data, and Sustain Dane could potentially get, a portion and help with the outreach on certain things across the community, like if that's helpful. Otherwise, I'm sure Dane County's using their channels to get information and outreach out. So, okay.
All right. I don't know if I have too much more to add on that. If it is approved, the plan would be, get flyers out around City Hall. I think an ad in the quarter-page ad in the Fitchburg Star.
At the
social
company.
media
Social
posts, the typical channels.
All right. Yeah, I guess if you need help on content on social media or what to hit on, but otherwise feel free to just share that out. We're happy to
All right.
share. I think as a commission, we're all fairly passionate about cutting down on organics. So
I don't want anybody to call us nerds, but we're passionate about compost. Yeah.
we do seem to be very passionate about it. All right. Anybody else have anything on that one? All right. Moving on to 5C, the Bring Your Own Bags event. Kim, I'm not sure if something happened or if something's coming up. If you want to just
Let me give a quick update. I had tried to get a BYOB event set up in July as part of the Plastic Free July event, but unfortunately we lost our contact at the Fitchburg Pick and Save store that we were working with when we were partnering with the Lions Club last year and Next Trex to collect all of the plastics. So that is unfortunate because when we were working together, I had explained the whole BYOB event and educational component to it, and they were very excited and said, yes, that would be great. Let's see if we can get something put together for next year. So I have another contact that we had worked with through this program that I've reached out to. So I'm hoping I can get another contact either within the city of Fitchburg store or, at the Milwaukee place to help me figure out if we can do this event. I don't know if we'll be able to get it pulled off this fall, but I will keep everyone posted. But my goal is if we can kind of get the right person who is interested in partnering with us, then we can make this a yearly event, because it makes it really challenging when you do it one year and then it's kind of like the school recycling program. Everything's going great and then they switch up the managers and then you're starting from scratch again. So I will keep you posted. I'm still working on trying to get something set, just not sure exactly when that might happen.
Yeah. Does it make sense to have someone like myself or Sharon Hanrahan potentially reach out to like the Fitchburg Hy-Vee? I know in the past we had one of those relationships there, but they have.
Yeah, we did. Ben and I did that last July at Hy-Vee. So we were trying to, do it, kind of switch it around. So let me see if I don't hear back regarding Pick and Save, then, I'll let you know about Hy-Vee.
Okay. Sounds good. And
all right.
Ryan, you know what this event is?
I think I gleaned a little bit from that, but we'll...
Okay. So maybe just describe it quick. Kim.
Yeah, sure. So basically, every year we had been either partnering with the local grocery stores, Hy-Vee and Pick and Save, to do a Bring Your Own Bag event where we use that as an opportunity to try and get people to be aware that it's much better to bring your own bag when shopping as opposed to taking plastic bags while shopping. And last year Ben and I did an event at Hy-Vee, and it was in conjunction to Plastic Free July, which worked out really well. And Ben had bags from City of Fitchburg that we were handing out to people and using that as an opportunity to educate them on what happens with the plastic bags. So I think that went really well. And I was trying to do the same thing at Pick and Save. We've been at Pick and Save in the past. And like I was saying, we've kind of alternated between the two stores. but I just wasn't able to get something pulled together this July at Pick and Save. So if I can get something figured out for the fall, then we'll see if we can get that set up. But it's an opportunity to just provide education, and we have boards with pictures set up and facts about, you know, what happens to plastic and how long it takes to break down, and hand out other information about RCC and recycling and all of our events.
Yeah, generally the grocery stores are pretty motivated by this because if you think about it, if 90% of their customers come through and they use a plastic bag, like at one point we had gotten some cost information on how much a plastic bag was that they're spending, and it was like, this is a while back, this is probably 7 or 8 years ago, but it was like 3 or 4 cents per bag. I can only imagine that's more now. And so, one of the grocery stores said that they were spending $22,000 a week on bags. And so, like, when the store manager indicated that to Kim and I, like, there's your motivation right there to like try to get more of your people, and then on top of that, like just the problems that they cause for the environment, the plastic bags. And you'll see, it comes down to like packing bags too. So like at some grocery stores I've been to in the past, this is a while back because I've been using reusable bags for a while. But like certain people packing the bags would maybe put 2 items in a bag, and here's a bag, and you'd have like a whole bin full of plastic bags for your groceries when they probably could have been done in half the bags. But just for a single-use plastic item, is there still a ban in place in the state of Wisconsin since 2010 that you can't ban the use of plastic bags? So
plastic bags.
You might be aware of that already, right?
I think there's some attempts in the past to change that, but yes.
Yeah, so that's something that continues to hang out there. So can't just ban them. So our events have been more so just educational for people, and normally the grocery store somebody's throwing in some type of motivation. They'll put reusable bags on sale, or there might be fuel perks associated with them. At one point,
which isn't great.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Bring your own bag, and then we'll give you free gasoline.
Right. I know. Yeah. No, I mean, they don't line up that well, but for some people, it was motivation to get a bag and at least take care of one of the 2 things.
Yeah. Right.
But that's just a little bit of background on it, and we've done one, I would say, pretty much almost every year for the last 8 or 9 years now.
I know when I took a tour of the Dane County landfill, that was one of the things that was brought up in that tour, and you could see it kind of across the landscape of the number of plastic bags that were littered across there. Obviously disposed of correctly, but they're filling the landfill too. So it was an interesting to hear from the people that were at the Dane County landfill talking about it, because they wrap up in things and
they get airborne. Yeah, and they're challenging at even the recycling facilities as well, because oftentimes those will be first things to get tangled up there as well. So they cause challenges at our landfills, at our recycling facilities. In our litter, because they get airborne, they get into trees, come sometimes high into trees. They get into our waterways, and they get mistaken for food sources. So like all these reasons are good reasons to try to shift away from it. Anything else on BYOB?
No.
All right. Moving on to the council update. Bill?
Yes, I have a bunch of stuff here. I thought maybe the list would be shorter because we only had 1 council meeting in July, but it was really 2 council meetings worth of material packed into one. Some upcoming events. On Wednesday night, we have the community night out at McKee Farms Park. So if you want to show up, you will be part of the, 15,000 people or whatever who are going to be there. There's a District 1 listening session with the mayor and the 2 District 1 alders, Dave Herbst and Joe Maldonado, on Thursday the 14th at 6 p.m. at Redeemer City Church. Friday morning the 15th at 9 o'clock at Tati over in Terra Vesta, coffee with the mayor. If you live in Greenfield, Swan Creek, or Fahey Fields neighborhoods, there's a run, walk, bike to McGaw Park, kind of a neighborhood block party happening there. They'll have food trucks and I guess just general social time. They'll be doing that August 22nd, September 12th, and October 3rd. Some real estate development stuff. So the Life Point Rehab Hospital is moving forward in uptown Fitchburg area there by where Lacey and Cheryl meet up, that area. They'll have a 60,000 square foot facility there. There's a senior housing development going up on Nesbitt Road across the street from 10 Pin Alley. One of the selling points of that was that just in their backyard was a bus stop. Unfortunately, that is one of the bus stops that's being removed with the rerouting of the D2. City of Fitchburg, we would like to extend the 65 and 75 to all-day service, so maybe when we do that, we can address that. The Wisconsin Department of Corrections has decided that they're going to put a juvenile detention facility at Oak Hill. That is something that is out of our hands. Apparently they're closing a couple of facilities in northern Wisconsin so they can move move that population to Fitchburg, where it'll be in general a lot closer to their families. So it makes visiting a lot easier.
If you want any more details on that, I can provide you probably a pretty significant amount of information on it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll talk faster and then you can say something. So Benvenuto's closed, I don't remember how many months ago, but there's a new developer, new owner. They're going to put in golf simulators, and they'll have a bar with some food there, some finger food. The existing kitchen they will convert to a feed kitchen, which is, so for anybody who's got like a food cart and they have to do some of their prep in a kind of a regulated kitchen that passes whatever requirements. So they'll be able to do that. Right now, the only feed kitchen in the general area is like in the north side of Madison, so it's kind of inconvenient, so that'll be nice. And last I heard, they were planning on opening on October 11th, which is coming right up. So if you like golf.
I do.
Okay. The city has hired a consultant to design the replacement for Kids Crossing and another consultant for Southdale Park. Bowman Plaza is still moving forward. That's going to be on, so Bowman Plaza is on North Fish Hatchery Road. You know where City on a Church is, or City on a Hill Church is, and where the mobile station is, right? Just north of Post Road. It's that kind of little strip mall thing where the BP station used to be. That'll be a $70 million, 270 unit, 7-story building. So that'll be the tallest building in Fitchburg after it's put up. Sunnyside Solar is being referred out at tomorrow's council meeting. So that's a 20 megawatt solar field with 160 megawatt hours of battery capacity. It'll be 40 megawatts by 4 hours, which is, by my calculations, roughly 1 day's worth of electricity use for all 6,600 single-family homes in Fitchburg. So that's the scale of that storage.
Are we buying into that, or is that something that is...
I believe the developers are going to put it in, and then MG&E is going to own that going forward. So that'll be just part of the grid mix, as far as I'm aware.
So it's just going to bring down our overall amount that MG&E has going to coal.
Yes, it'll increase their renewable share. Yes.
Okay.
Or I guess the amount of renewable.
Yeah.
So as long as they're adding more renewables than they're adding fossil.
Yeah, right.
The police facility, like the bids came in, where this is, I think, being referred out tomorrow night as well at council. The bids all came in like $10 million under what we had planned. So Pepper Construction was telling us, or we told FG&M to design a $35 million facility plus $5 million in renewables and sustainability features for a total of 40, and all the bids came in at like 30. So that's a win. We'll be seeing some zoning updates come to RCC. It's being referred out tomorrow night at council. So there's some pretty good stuff in here. And basically we're gonna allow solar energy collection by right in all zoning districts, so no conditional use permit required anywhere, as well as accessory dwelling units in all zoning districts. High density urban is a new zoning category that's going to come in, and that will allow commercial within residential neighborhoods. And then correspondingly, there will be an update to the business general that allows residential above commercial. So kind of just vertical mixed use, which is, again, it's a good thing. If you don't have, if you can walk outside 5 minutes and get your shopping done rather than jumping in your car, that's great. I was kind of hoping Phil would be here tonight, and maybe he's got some insight as to why the library is still having higher than expected utility bills. I think that is still something that is up in the air. Nobody knows why at the moment. Our Efficiency Navigator program is moving forward. So that is, again, they're taking what they call NOAA, naturally occurring affordable housing, which is typically older units that are affordable because they're not in high demand. They're older and have maybe they're a little leaky, whatever, but we're kind of rehabbing some of these, and our economic development team with Sustained Aid and oh shoot, what's the I forget the name of the guys who are actually doing the work. But they've identified a total of 72 units within 10 buildings that they're targeting with these improvements. The current phase of the project, the overall project, they're doing 44 units in 6 buildings. So they're doing new insulation and replacing furnaces with a combination of furnace and heat pumps. And we heard that in 2 of the units, they were going to put more insulation in the attic, but they found mold, and the owners were, they did the right thing there. They re-roofed, and so then we're just putting in all new insulation instead of adding to the moldy insulation that was already there. Update to the bike and pedestrian plan is moving forward. They've got a consultant who's working on that. There was an update to the Bike and Ped Commission last week. There's an urban forestry management plan survey that's open until this Friday, August 15th. I was not able to find that directly on the Parks and Forestry page on our website, but there's a link to it in the July-August Green e-news blast that Phil sent out. So if you haven't filled that out, please do. And you can find the link in that Green e-news blast. And the last thing on my list, the mobile home park, the Country View Mobile Home Park down along Double M, there are 9 vacant units there that are going to be removed.
All right. Well, thanks for all those updates.
Right.
There was a lot going on. That's why. Moving into staff and commissioner updates. Solid waste. Ben?
So that we've been working on kind of updating our really formalizing our disaster debris management plan. So we're just trying to get more of a formal plan in place if there was, high wind event, tornado, and there's, significant amount of cleanup that needs to be done. Figuring things out, where would you have your staging areas? What kind of, outside support would you need? Just kind of, the city does have a mutual aid agreement with neighboring municipalities. Kind of will help you if you help us in these kind of events. Kind of just reaffirming those. Getting any kind of updated, legal information that we would need as far as storage of certain materials, separation of certain materials, making sure everything's done in the way that FEMA would need to see, so you're getting reimbursements. Trying to utilize GIS for kind of damage assessment, tracking the work that was being performed, how many loads of what type of debris, that kind of a thing. So we're kind of, slowly taking a crack at this. We've got some meetings set up, just internal, and then with some other folks. Dane County Waste and Renewables, just to talk about coordination with, getting potentially a substantial amount of material moved over there, in this, event of a disaster, any kind of coordination they would need from us prior to that. So that's been a good thing to kind of get a better handle on. There's also been some revisions to state administrative code regarding refuse and recycling for responsible units. So the city of Fitchburg, any unit entity responsible for providing refuse and recycling services. The rule revisions were, I guess, fairly benign as far as impact. The biggest thing was, which is a very positive thing, I think, providing some specific volume requirements for multifamily apartments as far as, literally how much volume worth of container needs to be provided weekly for recycling. So in the past, the administrative code said an adequate amount of recycling must be provided, and that'd be kind of a sticking point, okay.
Carve out there.
Right, well, what people would want to maybe debate that a little bit. So now it's 20 gallons per person per week is what has to be provided at these multifamily apartments. So that was kind of the big thing, and that'll be, I think, positive.
So the most single-family homes have a 64-gallon cart, right?
65.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, so it's 32, 34, 33 gallons per week for the household. So 20 gallons per person is in the right ballpark per week.
Yeah, I did the quick math on that too. We have 3 people, we have a 65-gallon cart, so it seems about right. And it's normally pretty full, recycling cart.
Yeah, so that would be a good thing. I think there'll be less room to argue about what adequate means. We're just not using that word anymore. So there will be an ordinance revision that goes in part with that. So that, I think, was due April of 2026, but that'll come through RCC at some point, probably sooner than later. Again, it wasn't really a huge effort to make the revision to our existing ordinance. Not a lot of new language there. And yeah, I did mention the new recycling opportunities that will be coming to the recycling drop-off site with the expansion of the film recycling. So we got some new signs made up for that we'll have ready for the new dumpster when it comes. And then, of course, just working through some of this food waste diversion stuff that we've already discussed. But that's about all I got for solid waste.
Okay, moving into stormwater.
So we ended up rejecting bids for the Crescent Road Stormwater Improvements Project. This was also bid out in the same package as some water main work. And we did only get one bid. The contractor was having some concerns about potentially not being able to get all the work done in time before the city's paving deadline of October 31st. So we're looking to just rebid that project this winter here and have construction start in the spring. Look to have substantial completion sometime toward the end of July on this one. Staff also completed sediment depth testing of some wet ponds. We didn't do all the wet ponds in the city, just the ones that we felt actually had a chance of kind of getting to that sediment depth level where we would consider dredging. I think the Longford Pond over off the bike path and the Business Park A Pond, which is kind of over by Marketplace Executive, Sub-Zero area, were kind of the two ponds that had more sediment than we'd like to see, or less of a permanent pool depth really. So those will kind of be the ones we target for dredging next year. Our dredging project this year will be advertising soon. We wanted that work to be completed in the late fall, winter. I think it's a little less messy. The ground's firm. You're not going to be disturbing nesting birds at that time. Less chance of rain to stir up the sediment. Just overall, I think it'll be a little cleaner to do it in the winter. So that'll be the Quarry Hill Pond and the Techlands Infiltration Basin. So not really a dredging project, just trying to get an infiltration basin to infiltrate again.
Do we have all of our retention ponds on a somewhat fixed schedule, or do you just do a survey every so often and find the ones that are needed?
So we know what the depth is of all the ponds, and typically, before I came, 2021, I think they did some sediment depth testing of all of the wet ponds. So we've been kind of going off of that. And typically, if your water depth is 3.5 feet or less, that's kind of when you'd be looking to dredge. So, we didn't go out to Quarry Ridge and do sediment depth testing. We know it's got plenty of water depth. So what we did was, rather than just do all of them again every single year, we just look at the ones that were kind of getting closer the last time they were done. So I think we did about a dozen of them.
Okay.
And then picked up, additional survey on the ones Longford and Business Park A that we felt, all right, these ones are going to be within a year or a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then, as time goes on, we'll start to bring in some of these other ponds that we haven't done as recently again. Or a new pond, if there was a new development, the pond's 5 years old, it's not going to need to be dredged. It'll be.
I thought maybe it would be because there'd be more sediment from construction.
Well, potentially, but we do, typically want to see the ponds dug out a little extra deep so they can be used as sediment traps over the course of construction.
Yeah, right. So that's
hopefully
kind of naturally happening during the construction.
Yeah, that's that's the idea, yeah.
What's the average time between dredgings for a wet pond?
I think it could just, yeah, it varies so much based on the source area, you know, how big is the tributary area draining to it? Is there like, you know, is it houses? Is it a big field? How big is the pond? Yeah, there's a ton of variables, but you know, 20 to 30 years is not a bad ballpark. I think if you go and look at the DNR's publication, I think they've got a document that says, you know, every 30 years or so. But really, I think the big thing is maintaining that minimum permanent pool depth, so the sediment's not getting resuspended. If you've got a pond that was built 12 feet deep, you might not need to dredge it for a pretty long time. So it really is very specific to the individual pond. Also looking to do a little bit of televising and chip away at that. So we haven't necessarily, there hasn't really been a televising program implemented for storm sewer the way it has been for sanitary sewer. So, you know, we're just gonna kind of start with the oldest pipe in the city, or streets that we'll be looking to resurface, and try to start knocking those down slowly but surely, a certain percentage of the year, a certain percentage of all the length of pipe per year. You know, if that's 10% or 5%, we'll see what kind of prices we get and what the budget will allow. But a lot of the storm sewer in the city is newer comparatively to maybe some other communities around us. But there is some storm sewer that is old enough that it's worth televising. And not to mention there's so much utility work that's been going on. You know, someone could have bored a hole through a storm pipe, or who knows, you know, anything could have really happened. So we'll be looking to get some of that work done. We've got a new permit application process. So right in the past, it's just been all hard copy, you know, send in the check in the mail. All the other permits and kind of planning reviews for the most part are now done through OpenGov. So we're looking to get this erosion control stormwater management application through OpenGov. Been doing some testing. I think we've got a good process. So we'll be looking to get that officially launched pretty soon here. And then just continuing to update our wind slam models with any of the new VMPs that have been coming online, so we're not getting behind on that.
Makes sense. All right, anything on the sustainability, or just did Phil? I can't remember if Phil's providing an update.
Yeah, I'll read this off for Phil, but so the B cycle, which began in 2023, is I think nearly complete, or I think it is complete. Well, isn't there one more that's going at the hub?
There's one across the street from
They're just moving it. I think once the hub, okay. I thought they might move it. Okay, so they are done. One might get moved, but I think there's 20 of them. Is that right?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
In Fitchburg.
In Fitchburg,
yeah, I think there's is there 100 docks and I don't remember, or 100 bikes?
100 bikes and 20 docks, 5 at each dock. I thought I saw that. I think there's 20 docks.
20 docks with five bikes per dock.
How
exactly does it? I mean,
they want to keep them half full, so there's like twice as many docking, or twice as many docks as bikes, and then I guess so we're talking about like right over here at City Hall, we've got a docking station with 4 docks, and then down in by the senior center there's 2 docks or 2 stations with 2 docks each, and then is there 4 docks at the library? I don't know.
Yeah.
So one of the new stations is like a 2-minute walk from my house at the southwest corner of McKee Farms Park, and that's 6 docks.
Yeah. I think they just added one over by the Rusty Bee Lounge as well.
And I think Jamestown Eagle
Yep.
Park got one, and then
So I've never actually used one. So for someone, you know, that's new to our community and sees these bike docks all over, can you give like the 1-minute synopsis of how they work?
yeah, you put an app on your phone, and then you pull it up and you push the button that says unlock a bike, and it will it'll show you the map when you open the app, and then if you click the button, it'll zoom to where you are, or if you say unlock, it'll go to the nearest station, and then it'll tell you that it thinks docks 1 and 2 and 4 have bikes, something like that.
Yeah.
So then you just choose one of them, and then you go to the dock and you push a button, and you push the unlock button on your phone, and then 5 to 10 seconds later, you'll hear the dock beep, so you pull the bike out.
Okay.
So as you're, and then when you're riding, then you can look at the map and you can see, the map will always show you each docking, or each station along with a number. So if you don't currently have a bike checked out, the number it shows you is the number of bikes available at that station. If you have a bike checked out, the number it shows you is the number of available places for you to dock the bike.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when you're done, you just push the bike in there, and then the dock will beep a couple times, and then you can check your phone, however you configure it with a text message or an email. You'll get the confirmation that it docked successfully. And if you don't get that, then you should take a picture of the bottom left of the bike, just behind the pedals, has the identification number. You can show that the bike is in the dock, and you don't still have it checked out, because after a certain amount of time, they want to charge you extra because they think you're still out riding.
Got it. And what's like the hourly charge on?
I want to say it's something like $7 or $8 for half an hour.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you are going to use B-Cycle, by far the best way to do it is with the annual membership. Because then I think the base price is like $216 per year or something, which is up from $180 last year, something like that. But that gives you unlimited 90-minute rides. And if you want a bike for longer than that, you can dock it, and then you can immediately check it back out.
Okay.
If you buy the monthly pass, then I think you're limited to half-hour or hour rides. And if you get if you go by the individual ride, then you pay by the half hour, I think.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
All right. Police services facility, as Bill mentioned, received bids. JP Cullen submitted the apparent low bid. The expectation remains that the project will achieve a LEED certification of some level. And I think Phil will talk a little bit more about that as we get some more information next month. And finally, the city received 2 direct pay credits from the federal government for some past electric vehicle purchases. I think these were for the Ford Lightning trucks. So that's part of the Inflation Reduction Act. There's a credit of $7,500 per vehicle. Jim?
Yeah, sorry. So with the police building coming so far under bid, is there any opportunity to add more sustainability features or ones that we left off the table?
Well, that's I think not even just sustainability features, but other features in general. As I know, originally I think there were quite a few more wants. Just with the building in general from the police force. So I don't know at this point.
I think the design, the building has been designed. If we wanted to go back and make any further changes, I think that would be additional change orders with FG&M, and it would delay the project, so I doubt that's gonna happen.
And we've already gotten $5 million worth of sustainability, or there is $5 million worth of sustainability features already in there. Or maybe less than that.
It was like, what was it, like 4.2?
I think.
And I did see in tomorrow night's agenda packet, there's they lay out some of the information from the bids, and something like $500,000 in direct pay energy credits was also factored in, which I think that's fine as long as it's put into service by the end of December of next year. So any further delays would jeopardize those credits.
Yeah, credits.
Yeah, I don't remember any significant things that we struggled with that were off because of budgetary cuts. If I remember correctly, we mostly got the major sustainability features. Maybe in the future, maybe have an Alt B and Alt C with additional sustainability features that gets bid, and just see where they come in. So if you have a situation where you do come under bid, it's like, okay, we would like you to go with, alternative B also, and double the size of the solar on the roof or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
For
future generations.
They were talking about like partial covered parking and putting solar, something like that might be able to be bolted on after the fact without too much trouble.
Yeah, and I know they did have some mandatory alternates in the bid form, but there's some other ones that could have probably been included.
It's heartening to hear that LEED is back on the table, because a month ago they were thinking probably not due to cost.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Overall, that's just exceptional news. So I'm happy with that bid structure.
And I think that taxpayers will be grateful as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we all are.
Yep. Very good. Anything else on the sustainability front?
I do not.
All right. Agenda item 7D, activities being conducted or monitored by commissioners. Does anybody have anything out there that they want?
I'm just wondering, we had talked about coordinating with the Bike and Ped Commission on having some sort of an event, and at their meeting last Wednesday, they mentioned possible coordination with us, but I don't know that anybody from RCC has talked with anybody from BPC, and it's middle of August.
Yeah. So I don't think that anything that I don't know if anybody else has had a conversation. I haven't had a conversation, so I think we had talked about going around to potentially biking around to different sustainability features or homes or whatnot around Fitchburg.
Or showing off the creek monitoring station or whatever.
I've talked with Andy Potts, but very briefly, not in any sort of detail. But that's
just
mainly
like
because
walk
I see
across
him
the street, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna walk across the street. But also I see him in the office, daily. So can talk to. I'm happy to bring it up with him.
Yeah, if you want to just because he's on the bike.
He's the chair now of the Bike Commission.
So yeah, if you're able to just talk with him and just say, hey, we're interested in putting something together. I think I'm trying to think if Phil was maybe part of the last one.
Yeah, Phil led it last time.
Okay.
That was
so then, you could have that initial
something.
conversation, and then maybe tie Phil into the conversation, and then, if we're gonna have it, we probably want to make some moves on it.
Yeah.
In the coming weeks. So maybe we'll just email and stay in touch on that.
Your wife is on TTC?
She is. Yep.
So they might also be interested.
Yeah, I'll bring it up to her. Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah.
I mean, just kind of showing off the overall network of paths in the city might be something TTC is interested in.
Yeah.
RCC would be interested in showing off features within the city, and BP, you know, the Bike Ped Commission just, hey, you don't have to drive around in a car.
Yeah. I know with her being on the commission, that there was an effort to try and get somebody that walked a lot more on DCC.
Oh yeah.
And that, I mean, you brought up earlier about walking to get your groceries. We'll try and walk down to Target or walk down to Ivy from where we're at in Seminole Forest. So that's, you know, an hour or so walk.
Yeah.
But
Well, I ran into some people who live in the condos on the northwest of Sain and Lacey, and they said sometimes when they go to Madison, they walk over to Cahill, Maine and get the bee.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm happy to.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we've done some of these. So we did one, you know, a past event with an arborist talking about diversity, tree diversity. And so we had somebody on the tree committee. We set up like joint meetings, so like it was like some of our like outreach event. So like Kim and I essentially were meeting with certain people, so we just have to kind of get the right people on the table.
Sure.
And it'd be about setting a date. And then I feel like our networks, because we've done so many events, probably compared to most, you know, others, you know, once we get a date set and kind of a game plan, then I think we're pretty good at getting something out there, or we know the channels to go through at least to get that going.
You know, that's a good idea, talking to the tree advisory committee. You know, we might do a fall event that takes us out to Swan Creek to see those apple trees, and out to the, you know, the Walnut Preserve. There's along the path on the northeast side of Swan Creek, there's that one enormous black walnut tree. There might be other trees where, you know, if people are interested in foraging.
Yeah.
I was trying to align that with Earth Day.
Oh.
So,
Well, you know, the more events, the better in my mind.
All right, so yeah, I think let's just stay in touch on that, and then we can try to, I think the next thing would be getting those together. So sometime between this meeting and our next meeting, the goal would be to, you know, try to maybe have like and I don't like to have long meetings. So like these meetings, you know, like keep them like half hour to 45 minutes, and just kind of like with the focus of setting a date and a little bit about how the event would work, where we go. And then, you know, hopefully we can maybe get something in the latter half of September. Sure. I think is maybe a possibility. It's a little aggressive, but I think it's a possibility.
Okay. I might also put you in touch with Logan Reichstadt. He's the current alder on the Landmark Preservation Committee. Okay. And I don't know that they've had a meeting in like 5 years.
Okay.
But that might also be you know, go around and see whatever historic sites there are in Fitchburg.
Okay. I think he lives in the same building as my other coworker.
Yeah.
Is he over in, I think he's out Sassafras or around that area?
No, yeah. All right. Good deal. Andy, who's due next for our next article?
I think that's me.
Is that you, Bill?
I think so.
Okay.
Let's find out. Andy knows for sure.
Yeah, sure. It's you, Bill.
Okay.
All right.
So, yeah, so if you read Phil's Green E-News Blast, he's got information there about the federal tax credits that are all expiring. I was thinking that was the topic for the September article in the Star, and maybe I'll just touch base with him, because he's even said, you know, he's got 300 people who received that news blast, and the Star is a wider audience, so I might just repurpose a bunch of his stuff.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We get out to more people. I think I'm interested in that topic.
Yeah. Well, and it's worse than I thought, because I was under the impression that for most of the stuff, it had to be in service by December 31st of 26, but it's actually 25. So like, you might be too late right now because everybody's scrambling to get the credits before they expire.
Yeah. So the solar credits expire this year?
Yeah.
Really?
And I think the EV credit expires at the end of September this year.
Okay. All right, so I think we'll try to hit that at the next meeting. We'll just try to, make sure that we're set for the end of the year, October's and November and December articles. But I think we've been on a pretty good clip with them. So we're in good, we'll at least satisfy our 9-article commitment. I feel pretty confident in that. All right, anybody else have, moving on to number 8, any other announcements?
I'll just put this one out there. If you're interested in a bike ride, if you go to bikefitchburg.org, you can sign up for the Pick Me Up at the Border ride, which will leave from the Hop House on, it's like the 3rd Friday in September at 7 p.m. And then you can ride all the way to the Illinois border and back, or turn around at like Monticello, or turn around at Belleville for like a 25-mile ride.
Okay.
So if you're interested in that, go ahead and sign up.
Very good. Excellent. All right.
It's unfortunate that the tunnels are closed on the trail, so there is a detour.
Yeah, I just looked into that today, and I think according to the DNR website, the plan is still designed in 25, construct in 26, and open in 27. We'll see.
Why are the tunnels closed?
Just dangerous conditions in there, rocks falling from the ceiling. Yeah, so the design that they've chosen is to have essentially an enormous culvert. So they're gonna put like a corrugated metal liner along that entire length of the tunnel. And I think there's space above it for the bats to roost.
Okay. That's good. All right. Well, I don't know if we have anything else. Jim, you did a great job with timing tonight. Nice job as a timekeeper.
Hey.
But I think
we were after that first topic, we managed well.
All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.